How's it going today? I hope you watched my last video on how to make enchiladas. Today, I'm going to show you how to make tomato soup. I've only made this like 3 times, but the 3 times I made it was really good, so I decided to make a video on it. It's really, really easy. Yeah. So I made some adjustments because some people were like, hey, I liked the video, but I don't know what to buy. So with this video, I'm going to go ahead and fix that so that everybody knows what they're supposed to buy and give you a little bit more exact measurements, but not quite exact because, again, I think everybody should make food that tastes good to them. And so, how much salt you use is dependent on how much salt you like. So, or cayenne pepper or whatever else that it is that you're using. But yeah, so on to the ingredients.
So, ingredients. I got chopped garlic here, chicken broth, this is ground white pepper and onion powder, tomatoes obviously for tomato soup. Now I'm using cherry tomatoes basically because that's what I had here at the house, but I've also tried it with beefsteak tomatoes and it tastes fine. I mean, the cherry tomatoes give it a little bit of a sweeter taste, but either way, I think it turns out fine. Oh, that was loud. Okay. There's the butter, because everything's better with butter. Olive oil, garlic salt, brown sugar, and then I also have this blender. It's not really a blender, but it's the best one I've got right now since Micah has the big one, but this is so that you can make it smoother. Otherwise, if you want it to be chunky, you can leave it, but we'll get to that when it comes. I think this is all the ingredients. I can't think of anything else, but if I'm cooking and I think of something, I will come back and add it here in the beginning. I did in fact forget an ingredient, all-purpose flour. This is to thicken it up so it's not just like completely runny soup, so it has more of a soup texture and less of a water texture. Thyme is another ingredient that you can add. I think it adds a little bit to the soup, but I'm also not a big fan of thyme, so I use a very, very little bit, and it's not necessary, but it does adds a little bit of flavor to the soup. So, okay, to start with, I did 2 tablespoons of butter with 3 tablespoons of the oh wow, blacked out there. Extra virgin olive oil, and I'm doing it on medium-low heat here, so that just melting down the butter for a little bit, and then we're gonna add the garlic and cook the garlic down. So yeah. Okay, now that our butter has melted all the way through, we are going to add our garlic. Now with this, like I said, it's kind of dependent on how you like it. I'm a big fan of garlic, so I tend to add a little bit more over a little bit less. But, choose how much you want. Decide how garlicky you want it to be. Then mix it in and let it sit for about 2 minutes. Let it cook down for about 2 minutes, all right? So, in 2 minutes, we'll pick back up. So next we add flour. Again, this is to thicken up the soup so that it's not quite so runny. So we'll add flour, we'll add our onion powder, and our thyme, and we'll let that kind of cook, and once it kind of gets fragrant and smells like thyme, we'll add some more ingredients. So this is our flour, garlic, olive oil, and butter. That's all mixed together, and you can see it's kind of like a foamy, bubbly mixture. So now we're going to add a little bit of thyme. Again, like I said, I'm not a big fan of thyme, but I do think that it's worth putting in, but you definitely don't have to. It kind of adds a little complexity to the flavor, so to be honest, I don't know what complexity to the flavor means, but people seem to use it, and I know what layers means because it's like, whatever. I'm not going to explain that right now, but yeah. So we are going to add that, and then we're going to add a little bit of the onion powder. And this is just going to kind of, oh, that one's not open yet. So I grabbed an onion powder that I hadn't opened yet, so let's grab the one that's actually open. And I'm going to put that in there. And there we go. So we've got thyme and onion powder. We're going to let this cook again for another 2 minutes or so. Mix it all together and then let it cook down for another 2 minutes or so. And then we'll start adding our tomatoes. And that's when we get to the real tomato soup, huh? Right? Yeah, okay. I know, I'm a dork. All right, I'm out of here. All right, so that's been 2 minutes. This is all cooked down. It's a little bit thicker than it was before. That's the flour cooking and mixed with the garlic and thyme and all that other jazz. So now we are going to add chicken broth. Okay, here's the deal. If you don't have chicken broth, if you have beef stock, beef broth, whatever, it works the same. I made it last night with beef broth. It's a little bit saltier. It's not quite as not salty. I don't want to say bland because it really wasn't bland with the chicken broth, but either or works in the end. So yeah, so we're gonna add our chicken broth. And then mix it in. And you'll see it gets real thick. Okay, so now that's mixed in. We are going to get our tomatoes. And we're gonna add our tomatoes. And this is gonna be more than a little difficult to do with one hand. So I actually add a lot of cherub tomatoes just because, again, cherub tomatoes are small, and so it takes a lot of them to kind of equal out to what would be like a beefsteak tomato. Or I'm not, so I don't know all the different types of tomatoes, but yeah, so I basically just add enough so that they kind of cover the bottom of the pan here. So that's added. The other thing that I add is I add the cayenne pepper and brown sugar. Now this is a mixture that I already had of cayenne pepper and brown sugar that I used for my candied bacon. And so I'm going to just use this to add to it. And then the garlic salt and the white pepper I will add as well. So we'll take this over. And we'll add this too as well. And again, depending on how spicy you like it, add more, add less. It's kind of up to you. So I like a little bit on the spicier side. And then we will add our white pepper. Maybe. Yeah. And last but not least, we will add our garlic salt. Now, typically you just use regular salt, but I'm using garlic salt because I don't have a reason. Not even a little bit. So next what I'm going to do, and if you're using bigger tomatoes, then what I would recommend is actually cutting them before you put them in. So obviously that should come first, but now it's coming at this point in the video. And I like to kind of smush my tomatoes down just so that they open. But again, since I'm using cherub tomatoes, I didn't really want to cut a whole bunch of tomatoes. So now I'm just smashing them down and popping them and things like that so that the juices come out. All right, so now at this point, after you cut them and put them all in and everything's in there, you're going to actually set the timer for 30 minutes, cover it, and just let it cook down. Lower the heat down to low. Like I said, 30 minutes, let it cook down, and you should be good to go. So we'll see you in 30 minutes. Okay, now that it's done, it's been 30 minutes, I've added this to the blender. Now, I did let it cool, so I let it sit for a little bit, not as long as I would have liked, but Most blenders, you've got a sealed top, and so if you try to blend it and it's hot, then it's gonna pop off. So my suggestion is to let it cool, maybe set it in the refrigerator for like an hour or so before you try to blend it. But this will allow you to adjust the consistency so there aren't chunks and things like that in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll pour it back in the pot and we'll do the finishing steps, all right? All right, so this is my bowl of soup, and that's a slice of fresh mozzarella on there. I've already tasted it. It's really good. It's nice, creamy, tomato, a little bit of spice to it. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And next I'm going to be doing a fried mozzarella video and then a lasagna video. So stay tuned for those.